Okay, hold on. I just got to turn this thing on. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Today's lesson, alhamdulillah, we're in Surah Al-Qadr, in Tafseer, and we're still in the 12 surahs of Ikhtilaf. So we're going to go over that chapter again. We're on the 11th surah. No, Jazakallah khair, barakallah fikum. Shukran jazeelan. Alhamdulillah. So remember, it goes like this. What's the 12 surahs of Ikhtilaf? What's the chapter? In 12 surahs, there's Ikhtilaf amongst us. In Fatiha, Falaq al-Nas, Mutaffifin, and then Ikhlas, Rahmanul Ra'adul, Bayyina, Al-Taghabun, Al-Zalzala, Al-Qadaru, along with no one's word is deemed enough. In 12, this is a chapter, right? The surahs of Ikhtilaf. Ikhtilaf about what? Where it was revealed. Whether it was revealed in Mecca or whether it was revealed in. So out of the whole Qur'an, how many surahs in the Qur'an? 114 surah in the Qur'an, right? Some Makkiyah, some Madin. Out of them, how many surah are Makki?
The Makki is 82 surah.
82 surah, okay? How many are Madani? 20. 82 plus 20 is what? 102. What are the other? What's left? In 12 surah, there's ikhtilaf. Amongst who? The senior scholar staff. And then we mention them. In Fatiha, Falaq, An-Nas, Mutaffifin, and then Rahmanul Ra'dul, Al-Taghabun, Al-Qadaru. Now we're at Al-Qadr. Okay? This is the 11th surah of Ikhtilaf. So in that, we're going to go through what this surah talks about. What are the things we're going to go about that? We're going to talk about Tafsir 101 is what we're going to do. We're going to break each surah down for every one of you. From whence it came, its length, its name, its placement, and just what it claims. Okay, to learn Qur'an and pass it down for Muslims learning all around. So let's start with the name of this surah. It comes in this poem. He says, Al-Qadaru, night of decree, a Mekki or Al-Madani, 97 with 5 lines, and no one knows which night or time. So in this 2-line poem, each line is considered doubled, right? It tells you the name. What's the name of this surah? In Arabic and in English? Al-Qadr. And what does Al-Qadr mean? The night of decree. And we're going to get into that later once we get into the tafsir, deeper into the tafsir. We just go over it briefly right now. It's night of decree. What is decree, just basically? No us. Somebody else. Certain decisions are made. Things that are sent down. This is the rizq is sent down. Just to give you, the rizq is sent down. The ajal are sent down when people are going to pass away for a year, for 1 year. Okay? For that. Mostly the ulama talk about these two things. The rizq of people. What is rizq? The sustenance, their provisions. And ajal, what is that? That is their life. Who's going to die, who's going to be born. The amount of time is going to be sent down during this time. When that's al-akthar, that's most of the speech of the scholars. Then it says, when did this come? Where did this come from? This sort of came from where?
Makkiyah, Madini.
So it's Makkiyah or Madani. Why is that? Because there's ikhtilaf. There's difference of opinion amongst the senior scholars whether this surah was Meccan or Medinan. Why is there usually ikhtilaf on a surah being Meccan or Medinan? Why don't they know?
It's the last period actually. It's the time of the Hijrah.
Usually it's the time of the Hijrah. Usually if it came down in the year of the Hijrah, some people are going to ya'udduha Makkiyah. And some people are going to say, no, that was after Hijrah. It was Madani. Because whether a surah is Meccan or Medinan is not based on where it was revealed, bidabt. Rather, it's what? Based on Hijrah. Based on when Hijrah came. and where that surah came down in relation to the hijrah. Then it says 97 with 5 lines. Now we're talking about here. Its placement. What is it?
97.
It's the 97th surah in the Quran. Okay? 97th. How many ayat?
5 ayat.
It is 5 ayat. Its length is 5. And what does this surah claim? It doesn't say it here, but everybody should know. You knew you were doing this surah this week, so you read the surah, right? What does this surah talk about? What does this claim?
The claim is that is the night of decrees, but it's what that night nobody knows.
No. Nobody knows which night or what time the night of decree is. However, what does this surah claim to be?
It's
The night of power.
it's
Night of power? What? What about that?
it's the
I'm sorry, what you say? A little bit louder. That is what? That is better than 1,000.
night.
No.
I'm sorry.
Months? Months.
Month.
It's better than 1,000 months, this surah. Okay?
That's 82 years, right?
83 plus years. 83 years, 4 months, they say. Some people say, in the ulama, some say, they say 80 wa nifan, in a certain amount. Okay? So 83 months. I'm sorry. 83 plus years. That's what this surah claims to be. That one night is better than 83 years of worship. So the worship in one night is better than the worship or the actions or any righteous deeds done any other time outside of that. But the thing about it is, do you know when Laylatul Qadr is? No. A lot of people make claims. This is the reason why it's mentioned here, because a lot of people make the claim that they know when Laylatul Qadr was, but they don't necessarily know when Laylatul Qadr was. And then they establish worship based on their opinion. And when you establish worship based on your opinion, not a clear proof, this is something you have no right to do. The only one that can make an order about worship is who?
The Quran and Sunnah.
The Quran and Sunnah, or the Prophet. That's the Prophet by Kinayatin, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Actually, if you just said Allah, you got all of those other things, right? So this is what is the danger here of people saying, okay, it's the 21st night, or it's the 23rd night, or it's the 25th night, or it's the 27th night, or it's the 29th night. No one knows which night or time. Okay? And that's an important principle that we're establishing here right now. Yarhamakumullah. So, you have a question? Okay, and we're going to go through and prove that no one knows what night or time is, because you have to have a narration, something. What is proof in Islam? What's proof? Come on. If you're going to be a mufassir, you have to know certain principles. The first principle is that you cannot come up with anything from your back pocket. You cannot invent things. Okay, we imitate, we don't innovate. Okay? So, if you're going to say something, what do you have to have? Proof. Right. In a court of law, you have to bring your precedents. And a precedence in the Sharia is an ayah from the Quran or a statement that is authenticated from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in essence, a hadith. Excuse me? Or under the understanding, that's the next point. Under the understanding, you understand this ayah of Quran, or you understand that hadith that is authenticated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the understanding of the Khulafa Rashidin and those after him, or after them, from the Sahaba. Okay? That's what we establish. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a proof. And in that, we don't have anything from those saying that Laylatul Qadr is any particular night. And the reason for that is to encourage the people, us, the people, to try to get it. And by encouraging us to do it, najtahidu, we make juhd, extreme effort during the whole time that is possible. Just like, it's not an unknown possibility, unknown in the Quran. We find that Salatul Wusta, the Salatul Wusta, right? Allah tells us to especially Salatul Wusta. Which one is it? The ulama have, I think, 30 speeches, 30 different statements, which one it could possibly be. People say, no, it's this one, no, it's that one, no, it's this one, no, it's that one. Why? To encourage people to rush to do all the salah. Or the hour during Salatul Jum'ah, that your dua is answered. Which hour is that? By the absence of knowing, it encourages you to do what? To make dua the whole Yawm al-Jum'ah. And by not knowing, you have hopes. You're optimistic that you caught it in one of the hour that it was, and no one can tell you otherwise. No one can say, no, well, you didn't catch it, I caught it. How do you know? No one knows the hour. So you're optimistic that your dua was answered. And optimism is part of iman, just like pessimism is part of kufr. Okay? So you make your dua, you make a lot of dua, and you're optimistic that your dua was answered. Likewise, by not knowing the exact hour, or the exact night that Laylatul Qadr is, you work to try to make sure that you can get that night. And hopefully you get it. And you're confident that you got it. And you're optimistic, I should say, about getting it. And this is the reason why. So those people who say, well, I know exactly what time it is, they don't have a footing in the Sharia. Okay? They don't have a footing in the Sharia. Yes, please. Now we're going to go to the Qur'an and go over this surah, inshallah, ayah by ayah. It's a short surah, but it has a lot of information. No, read the whole thing. I'm not using it. I just want it just in case. So you follow it. Just if you find something that I missed, remind me, okay? It's real short, you know? I love that book. Alhamdulillah. لكن بعض الأشياء يا لليهم يعني
لا
نعم يعني الأسهل
صحيح.
نعم. Okay, could we get the surah on? No. Here we have in this the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's that? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Your brother's coming down just a little bit this way. Yeah, the sisters are there. Just to mention some hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih. Wa man qama laylatul qadri imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih." This is authentic hadith in Sahih Al-Bukhari, which states basically, whoever stands during Ramadan or fasts during Ramadan, and they do it with iman, believing in Allah, and hoping for the reward, they will be forgiven. Ghufira lahu, will be forgiven what he did of his sins, ma taqaddama, what he sent forward, and what he did after, what he's going to do in the future and what he did after. And whoever stands up and catches Laylatul Qadr, and Laylatul Qadr is the night of, we're going to talk about that in a moment, what exactly it is. But to catch Laylatul Qadr is to pray or to make worship and make dua during that night, and not to busy yourself with the umur dunya, with the things of this life. Not to be thinking about that, but rather your whole focus is on pleasing Allah. Step to the left a little bit. I mean the right. Okay? You got that? The thing on the bottom. Ah. All right. So we're going to go through here. And also, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Taharraw laylatul qadri fil witri min al-ashr al-awakhir min Ramadan." The Prophet ﷺ said, search for it, or to get busy, get hot. Taharraw, get busy or get hot for Laylatul Qadr, right? During the odd nights from the last 10 of the nights of Ramadan. So we know, we get a basic when this time is. And also the Prophet ﷺ said, it's not said, but كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل العشر شد مئزره وأحيا ليله وأيقظ أهله. All these are authentic from Sahih Al-Bukhari. And basically it says, when the last 10 days came for Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ got serious. He says that shadda mi'zarahu means he tightened his waist, he tightened his belt. You know, when you tighten your belt, you know you're about to get busy. You ain't going to be pulling up your pants no more. You tightened it up so you can get ready to do something. So it means that he got serious. وَأَحْيَا لَيْلَهُ, and he brought life to his nights. His nights got real busy. Okay, he was doing something through his night, not sleeping at nighttime. And then he said, وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ. And this is an important principle here. وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ. Many times we just leave our family be. The husband, I'm sorry to say, might be this brother. He goes to the masjid, he prays, and then his family is at home. They have no idea what he's doing. They have no idea what of the mentality. He's not sharing that at home. Okay? He's just doing it himself as if ibadah and knowledge in Islam is just for the men. This is not an Islamic concept. You know, the women in Islam, they were the shuyukh, just like the men were the shuyukh. When there was an issue, it wasn't an issue of which sex it was whoever had knowledge. You would see sometimes, if they didn't understand something, they would send for Aisha, or they would send for Hafsa. This is Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, the four great Sahaba. They would send for these and ask them, what about this? What about that? So we can't just leave our family dead. Let them sleep. No, we wake them up and we encourage them. وَاسْتَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. You know, establish the salah in your house and be patient upon that. That means in your family to establish that. The Imam was speaking this week and he said that one of the things that we have to do is establish, the most important amana that we have is the amana to establish this deen of Islam. How are you establishing it if you're not establishing it at home? Okay? Establishing this principle at home. So, أَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ, he used to wake his family up. It literally says he used to get them out of bed. So if your family says, hey, don't you want to do that? Just no, the Prophet used to wake his family up and get them busy also making ibadah and the like. So we're going to go through this again. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. The fact of the matter is that we, أَنزَلْنَاهُ, we sent it down. The who here, it points to, and it refers to the Qur'an. If you want to know what that who will stand, it's called Ha al-Kinaya. It refers to the akhir madhkur. But this time, nothing is mentioned prior to it. However, the who refers to the Qur'an. It says, Inna, the fact of the matter is that we, أَنزَلْنَاهُ, we sent down the Qur'an, Fi laylatul qadr, in the night of Qadr. Now, we're talking about Qadr, and what does it mean? Literally, the word Qadr means rif'ah wa sharaf. Rif'ah means to have a lofty position, and sharaf means to be noble. That's what it means. And Qadr also means power. Now, there's two types of statements mentioned why this surah is called Surah Al-Qadr. One of them is because of the seriousness of the day, of that night, that Allah is sending down the Qur'an on that night. It's considered, hey, that's a mighty night. Just like we would say about a person, لِفُلَانٍ قَدَرٌ. Like this person, there's something about him. He's somebody or something like that. When you see somebody or you notice something about, he's going someplace. When you see this, that's a mighty night. There's something happening on that night. Okay? And that's why it's called, Jazakumullah khair, ya Sheikh. That's why it's called Laylatul Qadr. One of the speeches about that. Everybody understand what I said about that? Do you have any questions about that? Another reason it's called Laylatul Qadr is because in that night, Taqdirullah yanzalu, the Qadr of Allah, excuse me more. Could you get that from me? Just put some of that down there for me. The decree of Allah, the decisions that Allah has made regarding the rizq, the provisions of the person, and the lifespans of people descends on this night. Okay? These things are descending on this night. So it's considered the night of taqdir, the night of qadr. When those things, thank you, Jazakumullah khair. Those things happen. For those two reasons, it's called Laylatul Qadr. Okay, another thing, we know that we're talking about the Qur'an in this regard. Allah says in another surah, Surah Al-Dukhan, حاميم والكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه في ليلة مباركة إنا كنا منذرين. It says, again, حاميم. We don't know what that means, these words. والكتاب المبين. Allah is swearing by the book. The book meaning what? Al-Kitab al-Mubin, the clear book. The book that makes everything perfectly clear. Al-Qur'an. Inna anzalnahu, the fact of the matter, we sent it, meaning the book, down, fi laylatin mubarakah, in the blessed night. So again, Laylatul Qadr is also Laylatul Mubarakah, the beautiful and the blessed night. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent it down. Also, it says, نَزَّلَ الْقُرْآنَ جُمْلَةً. He sent the Qur'an down at one time. One time. مِنَ اللَّوْحِ الْمَحْفُوظ. To the lowest heaven. And then from that point, it was whenever the Prophet ﷺ needed the Qur'an, then the angel Jibreel would bring it down from that point to the Prophet. Nujuman, meaning munajjiman. Piece by piece. Piece by piece, it would bring down the Qur'an. And so from this principle, the ulama say that the Qur'an is the thing that can give the most help to the ummah, even now. Because when you see the Sahaba had any problem, what happened? An ayah was revealed. And what did that ayah do? زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. It increased them with iman. It gave them sakina, tranquility. It gave them the ability to keep going forward. So if you want to increase your iman, the thing that can increase your iman the most now is what? Qur'an. فَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالْقُرْآنِ. So upon everybody, start reading Qur'an. As we say it constantly, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. If you just read 10 pages a day, which is half of a juz, everybody in here, you knew your brothers and sisters were doing that, where would you be in 3 years? Not memorizing, just reading 10 pages a day. Let's say it took you an hour to read 10 pages a day. You think you'd be that way in 2 months? It would be even less time. Less time. You can't, out of 24 hours, spend, let's say, 15, 20 minutes reading Qur'an a day. And if you did that in 3 years, how much of Qur'an would you know? Without memorizing, how familiar would you be with it? Who's seen a movie 3 or 4 times? You sit there for an hour, 90 minutes, watching this movie. Lahwa. Ma fish nafi'a. There's no benefit. You sit there, sometimes you realize, there's no benefit, but you can't get up. Shaitan. Keeping you sitting down, stand on your shoulders. Nah, stay. Maybe it's going to get exciting. Ain't nothing different going to happen. You saw the movie already, right? But during that same time, you could be increasing your iman, strengthening your situation, okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions in the Qur'an in a few different places that this Qur'an was sent down. It says here, the question comes up in this ayah about the inna. Everybody say inna. Inna. Inna here means, the fact of the matter is that we, okay, there's an issue called we here. It's called the royal we. A lot of people say, well, why does Allah say we? Inna anzalnahu. We sent it down. And referring, this is for ta'zeem. Ta'zeem means grandeur, to big up the something. When you see the kings, there's no real kings in this world. But they say how we have decided, and it's only talking about one person. But this person is real arrogant and seeing himself as we the kingdom. Where Allah has the right. Allah is mustahiqun. He has the right to see himself in that way. So he says, inna, we have sent it down, referring to himself. And we know that it's referring to Allah alone, because it's inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. In other places, he refers to him in the singular. Inni ja'ilun fil ard. I am making in the earth a khalifa. And here he says, inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. So other places, it says, we have inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra. This is the fact of the matter. We have sent down the dhikra, referring to the Qur'an as one of the names of the Qur'an. And then Allah makes it very clear in another surah. He says, Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith kitaban mutashabihan muthaniya. It says, Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith. Referring, instead of the inna here, it refers to who? Allah. Allah is the one that sent down the best, the most beautiful ahsan al-hadith. Okay, in this case. So this inna anzalnahu, it refers to who? Allah. And the who at the end refers to what? The Qur'an. And the Laylatul Mubarakah, Laylatul Qadr, the night of power, of the night decree, refers to a blessed night. Okay? And when was it sent down? When was it sent down? No, but when?
At the month of Ramadan.
How do you know? Allah says, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So Allah makes it very clear. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So this is exactly when it was sent down. And all those ayahs clarify what is being referred to when we say, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. Laylatul Qadr came when? Come on, people. Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. And Allah tells us that. And who's the inna? Allah. Because Allah says, Allahu nazzala ahsan al-hadith. Right? He sent it down. And this is Laylatul Mubarakah, as Allah mentions in other places where He tells us, wal kitabu mubin, inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah, that He sent it down in a blessed, a beautiful night. Okay? And then we go on. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. It says here, what will and وَمَا and what? أَدْرَاكَ. Adra is the word, dariya. We have, like in hadith science, we have riwayatan and dirayatan. Riwayatan is the chain of narrations, who narrated it. Diraya is what do we know about this hadith? What does it mean? What is the meaning of it? Okay? So we have this same word, adra. Everybody say adra. Adra means what you know. And the ka is referring to the singular meaning Muhammad, but it's for all of us. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What would make you understand? What would make you recognize and know ma alladhi, what is Laylatul Qadr? What is this night that we call Al-Qadr? And there's a thing in the Quran that says whenever you see wama adaraka wama yudrika, there's two different things. Adaraka means it's going to be known. You're going to be known. You're going to be made known what that thing is. Wama yudri means you're not going to know. It's not going to be known to you. So here we're going to know what Laylatul Qadr is. And ma is more general than any other type of description. Because it says, and what? Well, like it is what Laylatul Qadr is. Meaning, what does it mean? What happens then? When is it exactly? All these things encompass in that what. You following me? No. So when we say, what does it mean? We say meta. We know it's in the last. When is Laylatul Qadr? We say, when is it? When is it? We know from authentic sources that it is in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Specifically, the last what days? Odd nights. The last 5 odd nights, or last 10 odd nights of Laylatul Qadr. Okay? In the last 10 days, I should say. 10 nights, I should say. And we know what is it, because it's going to explain to us what happens in Laylatul Qadr. Right? In another place, Allah says, فِيهَا يُفْرَقُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ أَمْرًا مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. إِنَّا كُنَّا مُنذِرِينَ. It says that فِيهَا يُفْرَقُ كُلُّ أَمْرٍ حَكِيمٍ. فِيهَا يُفْرَقُ. In that night, all the orders of Allah are separated and come down and distinguished. From Allah. So it's going to explain what's happening there. And then it says, وَمَاذَا يَحْدُثُ فِيهَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Okay, and also, it's going to tell you what's going to happen during the qimatuha. What do you say qimatu say? The value of Laylatul Qadr is going to come up. Jazakumullah khair. The value of Laylatul Qadr. All of that is encompassed when it says, and what will make you understand? This is again, ta'ajib and giving it strength. And what will make you know? If someone says, this is such and such, and what will make you know what that thing is? So now you start to reflect. Well, what will make me understand? What is that thing? Because Allah has given us the Quran, لِيُدَبِّرُوا آيَاتِ, so we can think about, لِيَتَدَبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, so we can think about and consider what these signs and these ayat mean. Then it tells us, لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. It's telling us, first of all, the value of this night. Dig that. Understand the aql, the intelligence, or the thinking process of a human being. You telling me Laylatul Qadr, so what is it? And before you even tell me what it is, you tell me the value of that thing. Right? This is worth $1 million. Now you're really interested. Right? As soon as you hear the value of that thing, hey, well, I'm in now. I want to know. I want $1 million. I want to get that. So Allah is dealing with us intellectually. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alfi shahr. It's better than 1,000 nights. Months. Afwan, jazakumullah khair, barakallah feek, astaghfirullah al-azim. It's better than 1,000 months. Sam? 1,000 months. Now, there's a few issues here. The first issue is, what does that mean? Literally, it means it's better than 1,000 months. What does that mean? It means that the work, anybody that does an action, a good, righteous action that Allah has ordered you to do, or encouraged you to do, or allowed you to do. Because our deen, our culture is 5 things, right? Right or wrong, it's your culture. It's 5 things. You have to step off to the right a little bit. What are those 5 things? Wajib, those things that are obligatory upon us to do. Haram, those things that we are forbidden from doing. Mustahab or mandub, those things that we are encouraged to do. Makruh, those things that we encourage not to do. And mubah, those things that is permissible to do, we don't get a reward or we don't get punished for it. But the mubah thing, it can become something that is encouraged to do because with our intention, right? Because eating fish or eating chicken is mubah. But if you eat it in order so you can stand up at night and study, then it becomes mustahab. It becomes encouraged, a recommended act. If you eat it in order so you can go out to the club and party, then it becomes a makruh, a haram act. You know? So anything that mubah changes based on the intention, because the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Deeds are only judged and gauged by the intention therein. So any righteous deed that the Prophet has encouraged us to do or ordered us to do, like a salah, and the encouragement of doing the mustahabbat salat, those extra salawat or du'a, or allowed us to do, talk nice to our family and play with our children. Any one of these good righteous deeds that we do during this night is better than doing that same exact deed any other night. Okay? And if we did that deed, the reward we would get for that princess? Can I have her? So the Prophet said, Hiya lak, she's for you, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You got her. Then the Prophet died. Then Abu Bakr came and he passed away. And then Umar, so time passed. And during the time of Umar al-Khattab, I believe, they conquered this kingdom. And now the Arab came and he's like, hey, that princess is mine. Okay, and he brought proof and he said, yes, she's yours, Hiya lak. So he went to go get her and he goes up to this place, he takes her, and she's an old lady. All these years had passed, right? She's an old lady now, okay? So he's like, oh man, I missed out on this lady. But she's lak, Hiya lak. So she said, what do you want with me? You know, what are you going to do with me? He's a desert Arab and everything like that. She said, look, I'll make a deal with you. Ask me for anything and I'll free myself. I'll pay for I'll ransom myself to you. So he said, oh yeah? Give me alifun dinar. Give me 1,000 dinar, right? $1,000. She said, are you sure? He said, that's right. I'm not budging. I want 1,000, dinar. Right? So she gives it to him, and she goes on her way. And he's happy. He's all happy and everything. And Sahaba say to him, yeah, aunt, what's up with you? She's a princess. You asked her for 1,000. You could have asked her for hundreds of thousands. He said, what? I didn't know there was a number over 1,000. So, and this is authentic narration. The fact is that the alif, as a number, when they heard this, they considered alif al-shara to mean jami' al-dahr, the end of time, from the beginning of time to the end of time. That's what some of them thought that it meant. You understand? Because what else is that? Even some of my daughters, when they came, they were saying alif. There's no number over alif. Then one of them said, well, what do you say about 1,000,000? We learned this number million. You know, it's full. And they said, oh, that's just an exaggerative number. There's no real thing called million. Don't get over 1,000. And they were having this conversation just last week, about 1,000,000. So they thought that anything over an alif was just exaggeration. You don't really mean an actual number like that. So now we know that that is a number's actual. And the point is just to recognize how we look at alif, okay? How alif is looked at, a great grand number. We understood? Okay. So we're going to go on from that. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. It says, what is, again, first of all, the first line is telling you the value of that Laylatul Qadr. Because it's answering this question. وَمَا أَدَرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ قَدْرٍ. And what will make you understand what Laylatul Qadr is? The value of it is Laylatul Qadr خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. 1,000 months. Make sure I get that right. Right, Mirsad? That's the first thing. That's how much it's worth. Then it says, تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. تنزل الملائكة. That's the first thing. What's happening during that night? Understand what's تنزل. Everybody say تنزل. That shidda on the Z, say تنزل. That shidda on that Z, right there, you feel tikrar. It points to tadullu. It points to consistency in action. The action is going over and over and over. Number one, that tells us two things. That the angels, tanazzalul malaika, the angels are descending consistently, constantly, all night long. You understand that? Angels are descending. And just to get a concept of the angels descending, don't you know that when the rain comes down, that with every raindrop, an angel descends with it? That's why rain is sometimes called barakah. Because they say, اكثروا في الدعاء, make more dua when it's raining. But on Laylatul Qadr, and you see how much rain it is, right? More angels descend than that. تنزل الملائكة. They're consistently, one after the other. They used to say is, I forgot the Sahabi's name. Saifullah, Khalid. The Muslim armies come in and Khalid. And they be like, oh, they start running. The Muslim army coming is scary enough. And Khalid? They said Khalid ibn Walid? Not that he was never a one-man army. Astaghfirullah. He was a general. He utilized his troops very well. But the point was that Khalid was never beaten on a battlefield. The Prophet ﷺ didn't even beat him on the battlefield. Okay? That's how Khalid was. He took advantage. And the battlefield was his. So when you say somebody specific after the whole group, the Malaika, Warruh, and Jibril. Because Jibril don't come for nothing easy. He comes for the serious business. When Jibril comes. Other than that, when does Jibril come? To bring revelation. Going to the prophets. So, تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم, with the permission of their Lord, min kulli amr. This is literal, from every amr. But it literally means, the min here, it means bisabab. It means for the reason of. For the reason of kulli amr. To the sabab of their coming down is they're bringing every order. And you know the angels, what do? When they hear the order of Allah, they race. They race to fulfill the order of Allah. Allah said, they're going to do it. And the ulama was saying also that when Allah decides something, Allah speaks in the heavens, and He said, the angels start flapping their wings. And it sounds like something being drug over a chain. And they're so afraid until they get settled with what Allah has said. You understand that? And then they go to fulfill this thing. And this is going on fast. It's happening fast. So these angels are racing down on Laylatul Qadr. They have opportunity here hatta matla' al-fajr, until the end, until Fajr comes, till the tulu' al-shams. When the sun comes, back to normal. Things going back to where they were. Okay, so astaghfirullah. Now I'm just checking my notes here to make sure I got everything covered. Now, yes, ma'am.
You said that there were two issues. One action, good action, that Allah ordered us to do, and then you just state the other one.
Excuse me?
You said there were two issues with regards to value of the Father.
The Laylatul Qadr, I said there was two issues regarding Laylatul Qadr.
Yeah, you said it's better than 1,000 nights, but then you said, okay, then there's two issues. The actions that are ordained by Allah.
Okay.
And then
The actions that are ordained by Allah, and the ones meaning ordered by Allah, those that you are allowed to do, and those that are encouraged. That's what I think I was meaning. I don't know exactly what I was saying. I'm sorry. I don't remember. I think that was it. Maybe do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I think that's what the issue is right there with regards to Laylatul Qadr, the things that you are ordered to do, like the salah, and the things that you are recommended to do, those all things that happen during Laylatul Qadr, you get the great reward for. I can't think of it right now. I'll just try to think of some other time. If I look at the CD, I'll try to remember what I was talking about, okay? And I'll get to you next time. Right now, my mind is on salam, okay? This salam, again, just to understand what the great and grandeur of this night is that you have this, and the point I keep reiterating is this amnesty, this opportunity to repent on Laylatul Qadr, and the fact that all the angels are passing the salams on the believers, and also the fact that the doors of Jannah are open, and this is more opportunity and possibility for you to get good during this night. Other ulama say that it means salamun, that nothing evil is going to happen this night, and the shaitan is bound, but he's only bound away from the believers. Okay? He's only bound away from the believers. Other people say that the salams that the angels give, they only give it if you're in the masjid. Okay? But we find that there's other statements that negate that, because you could be home. What about the ladies that are home if they're not in the masjid? Or the person that had to work, or for some other reason he decided to stay home because it's not wajib to be in the masjid to taqdi, to make Laylatul Qadr. How do we know that you don't have to be in the masjid during that night? Did the Prophet make i'tikaf every night? Did he stand up and make Tarawih Salah every night? No. So this shows that you don't have to be in that masjid to get that and receive that salams. Do you understand that? No. So it's not just, so if you hear that statement, understand where it came from. Don't jump the person, beat them up or anything like that. But, you know, understand where they're coming from. And this is hatta matla al-fajr, and there's a time restraint put there, hatta, until matla al-fajr, till the tulu' ish-fajr. Tulu' is to raise up, the rising of the fajr, and the fajr time is something ma'ruf, well known. What time is fajr? That's when the crack of dawn bursts open. That's what fajr means, actually, when it bursts up, when it's right before that red and all that other stuff comes into this horizon, right after the darkest part. Do I have any questions at this time? If there are no questions for me, I have some questions for you. Turn off this thing right here, please. What time is the adhan? 9 o'clock, so I have 3 minutes. Alhamdulillah. During these 3 minutes, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. First question I'm going to ask you is, Inna anzalnahu. Inna anzalnahu. What does that mean? What does inna mean? Who is it referring to? Allah. Allahu nazala ahsan al-hadith. That's the ayah says, Allahu anzala ahsan al-hadith. Referring to the Qur'an. Allah says, Hamim wal kitab al-mubin. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakatin. Anzalnahu. What is the who referring to? Al-Qur'an, right? It's referring to the Qur'an. Fi laylatul qadr. Laylatul qadr. What does the word al-qadr mean? Decree? I don't want to hear that. Let me give me something before that. We've been saying this word for 100 years now. What does it mean?
Strong decision, power.
Strong decision, power. I mean, how is power related to this night? You know what I'm saying? Don't just give me words. Tell me what it means. The night of what? Destiny. In the last 10 days of Ramadan, last 10 odd nights, right? Well, 10 nights, I'm sorry. 10 nights of it, okay? To look for it, and it's going to be in the odd nights, right? In the odd, so that's going to be the last 5, okay? And it tells us what to do during that time, right? To get serious, right? To enliven our nights. And do what else? No? Wake up your family. Wake up your family. لكن لا أعرف إلا الصح يعني So these are the things that the Prophet did in the authentic narration, right? But we know in that night what is acceptable? Any, right? Any righteous deed is better than what? 1,000 deeds in some other night, right? What else is what's happening during Laylatul Qadr? First thing we say, what's happening? The angels are descending, right? Descending. And Ar-Ruh, who is that? Jibreel. Okay, that's the strongest opinion. Some people say Ar-Ruh is a type of angel. Okay? But we're going to say what most of them say, Jibreel.